give us an update on Espria?
Yeah, so a mild grade 1 ankle sprain. So x-ray was negative. So it's a minor injury, minor ankle sprain. So we're hoping to have him back in training end of the week.
So do you think he'll be available for Sunday?
We're optimistic on it, yeah. So don't know for sure, but we feel like there's a good chance that he'll be back in training Thursday. So we don't train Thursday, so Friday, Saturday, and then be ready for the game.
If depending on his availability, I mean, would it be something where you might have to look at switching the formation if he's not available, or just do you feel like you have a?
We think of available. Yeah, and if he wasn't, I don't think we'd switch the formation. No.
Sunday's going to be an emotional day. Do you coach for that? Do you worry about that at all? Because banner going up, the crowd. Do you worry that the emotion has to be managed?
No, I think it's a good thing. I think you want it to be there. But I always learned early in my coaching career, you don't coach the moment or the occasion, you coach the game. So we'll approach it like normal, but it's good because ultimately the buzz will be, the energy will be there in the system, and you don't need to worry about motivating them or getting them ready psychologically. They'll be ready. So I always find that these type of games are pretty easy to coach, because you just do what you always do, and you don't need to worry about them being flat.
How will you handle it when that banner's unveiled? Will you take a moment to separate from the game, or do you have to stay in game mode?
Yeah, I'll take a moment. Yeah, it'll be cool to see. It's a great moment for the club. It's a great moment. I mean, it's a monumental occasion. So, I'll take a moment and a few seconds, and probably get a smile and a nice glow, and then we're going to be kicking off. And now none of that will matter, so it'll almost be, in some ways, once the whistle blows, some closure a little bit on last year, because now officially the new year will have begun. But yeah, I'll take a second, look up at it, just like I look up at the TIFOs, and be interesting. I'm sure there'll be something that they'll put together with that as well.
It's kind of uncharted territory for the Timbers and the city of Portland to be defending a championship in general, but you've been with teams that have won national championships. How does that next season, what kind of changes in that next season, and what things have you learned about coaching in that?
Well, I think the big thing is, as much as the psychology is played up that you're defending something, you're really not, unless you think that way. But we don't think that way. It's a new season. It's a completely new year. It's not going to be any easier, but it's not going to be harder either. It's just a new year. So it's not really anything different than the way we approach every game. We don't assume that the last game, based on what happened, really plays much into the next game. So same thing with the season. Last year was a good year. Obviously it ended well, and we were the best team in the league, and we raised the trophy. We were the last team standing. But this is a new year, and that's over, and doesn't play into this year at all. If anything, and I've said this, it gives us the confidence that we can do it, gives us the belief we can do it, and it lets us know what's possible at the end of the year. But we don't get caught up in talking about a lot of what the media will say of defending things, and there's none of that talk that we say in a locker room that we're defending a trophy. But the reality is, like I said, we know we can do it, but we know we're a long way away from doing it. We have 34 games, and we need to get off to a good start. It's very important. When you look at that first 8 or 9 games, we have 5 home games in the first 9, and we want to capitalize on those home games, and we want to get off to a good start. We know, historically speaking, that 1.5 points per game gets you in. But in years past, we've pretty much, in the early quarter, we've averaged about 1 point per game, and then at the end of the year, we've averaged 2, so we've made up for it. But I'd like to be averaging 2 early in the year, especially when we hit that summer, and now all of a sudden Open Cup and Champions League kicks in. We'd like to be ahead of the table, so that now we can make some decisions on how we manage the roster and manage the end of the year versus having to chase the season and make up for lost ground, make up for lost points early in the year. So our goal is to start strong and to get as many wins as possible in that first 9 games.
Do you see, you mentioned this a little bit, but do you see the short off season as actually being a benefit in helping you guys get off on the right foot?
I think more than the short off season is just keeping continuity, you know. So we have less players transitioning in, and certainly the players that we are transitioning in are more MLS guys. So that should allow us to start a little quicker. We have less to tinker with, less to figure out this year, more than the 4 years I've been here. So that should help. And then again, we just want to build this mindset. Maybe I haven't in years past done a good enough job of building that mindset of getting off to a good start early in the year. But I think a lot of it was we were still figuring out, how we were going to play, who was going to play. There's a lot of new players, a lot of new overseas guys to integrate, and there was more tinkering. We also had some things to manage early in the early in the previous 3 years with injuries. If you remember, looking back, last year was Rodney and Valeri. Valeri. Year prior was Rodney. So there's always been some interesting things to manage. So we feel like there's less things to manage in that regard, assuming guys like Ridgie and Esprit are healthy.
You said that for you it won't be any different being defending champs, but other teams won't think that way. I mean, they'll be coming in and you're the champs, and they'll treat you differently, don't you think?
No, I really don't. I mean, I think when you look at the simple psychology of a game, everybody wants to win every game, so again, I think it's something that's played up more than it really is. And I've experienced being defending champions and experienced winning back-to-back, and if you build, it all depends on what you say to your group and the mindset you build and the process you follow. So our process is really, really simple. Every game's a new game, and every week's a new week, and nothing we did in the past plays in the future at all. So because we follow that process, we don't assume after a win that it's going to be easier. We don't assume after a loss it's going to be harder. Every game has to be played for 90 minutes inside the line. So it's not like any team that's come in to play us in the last 3 years prior to this has felt we were a bad team, felt we were going to be an easy game. And in some ways, I think the psychology of us being last year the champion helps us. So again, I think sometimes, and I've studied this and thought about this a lot over the years, sometimes the media psychology that's talked about isn't the real psychology that happens in a locker room and happens in the mindset of a game and players. So I disagree with a lot of that talk. I really do. If you've built your team the right way. Same thing when people talk about pressure. I mean, pressure happens in the mind of the weak and the unprepared. That's the only way you feel pressure, is if you're unprepared and if you're thinking about the wrong things. Same thing with crowd, home and away. These are all things I've talked about over the years that I just really don't believe in and agree with. For me, a game's a game. It doesn't matter who's in the stands. It doesn't matter the last year. It doesn't matter the last game. It doesn't matter the past. None of that should ever play into what happens in the present of a soccer game, ever. What the opponent thinks, that's irrelevant to what we need to do in a soccer game. That's my belief, and that's the way that I build my team psychologically to manage a season. Is literally every game is a game, and the whistle blows, and it's what happens inside the lines. It's the performance of the players, and it doesn't matter the mindset of the opponent, what they're thinking. It doesn't matter the last game, and it doesn't matter the history. None of those things play into the performance in the present.
Obviously, getting off to a good start, you've said it's a priority, but you kind of saw it firsthand last year, and you've told us many times how a season's long and a lot can change. There's lots of ups and downs.
Yeah.
Just seeing how the season played out last year, does that did that help you even reiterate that point for you heading into this season?
Yeah, and I think, like I said, after last game and the preseason game, I think it was a really good kind of reality check for everybody. Everybody should understand we're in a new season. It's back down to earth and reality, and this is going to be a long season. Just because, again, we won it last year doesn't mean all of a sudden now it's going to be easier. It's not going to be harder either. it's going to be what we make it. It's going to come down to every single game, how we play, whether or not we get points. There'll definitely be losses. Hopefully there'll be a lot of wins, but there'll definitely be moments where we're talking here in the scrum, and we've lost some games, and the pressure questions will come in, the usual questions, and there'll be the talk when we've had a long win streak of, how you're going to keep guys focused, you know what I mean? And it's going to be a really similar year. And I'm hoping the end is the same as well. But it's going to be ups and downs. That's any season. That's MLS. And you've seen it the 3 years that I've been here. There's ups and downs. But really, you've also seen it's been pretty steady overall. And that's the way we make it. We make it steady. We just happened to have won a few more games last year at the end of it. And other than that, it was a pretty similar year to the other years.
Are you about where you want to be as this preseason came to an end?
I think so. I wish I had more time with Ridgie here and with the back line to get that a little bit sorted, but it is what it is, and we got to manage that. And the good thing is last year we had a really good rhythm with our defending, and we gained a lot of confidence in that side of things. But for me, that's been the one hiccup of the preseason. It's just the back line and not having time to get that kind of sorted out as much as I would have liked. But I feel good about things. I actually like the fact we lost this last preseason games. You guys have seen how we do after losses, and we always respond. I think it was good for us good wake-up call, good feeling to have actually going into the year. Good feeling for our supporters as well going into the year, although it never feels good to lose. It does just kind of level us all off, and I think it gets us ready for the year. I didn't try to lose the game, but I kind of liked that it happened that way, because I think it's just a good reminder for everybody, no matter who you play, you got to play. And I think we played well, but we made some mistakes, and we hadn't had that feeling of losing. The last was Kansas City. That was 9 games to go in the season, and even in preseason, the top group, they never left the game feeling like they lost the game because we rotated guys out, and that's usually when things were different. But I think it was a really good thing, and I think we'll have our guys really locked in, and it's not like we lost confidence from losing that game. If anything, we'll have a little bit more edge.
Is the expectation still that Ridgewell should be good for Sunday?
Yeah. Like I said, the expectation, I could be, cagey, but I'll be honest this week.
This week?
Yeah. We hope to have a Spria and Ridgie ready. Ridgie for sure. Spria, we'll see, but we're optimistic. We're optimistic that he'll be ready by the end of the week. It wasn't a major injury.
What are your sort of objectives for this last week, and what response do you hope to see from the guys, from that wake-up call that you got?
Well, again, I think it's more of just it puts a reality in there. It's not like we played poorly, but we did make some mistakes, and we'll look at some of those things. But we've laid out a great week of preparation. Spent a good amount of time this morning with the staff, laying out a really good week. We have certain themes that we're going to work on this week that relate to Columbus. And obviously we feel like we're really fit right now, so we're in a good spot there. But for me, it's normal. We have obviously some things we want to stress this week that are different, that relate to Columbus. But it'll be a normal week as we build this up, just like it was a normal week going into the end of the year, trying to win the MLS Cup. I didn't change anything going into the MLS Cup. I'm not going to change too much going into the first game of the year.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. You have a great day. Yep.